Everyone knows that feeling of waking up with a start in the middle of the night when your phone decides now's a great time to blare a loud alarm and wake you up, scare you to death, your heart's racing, and you reach for your phone wondering what the heck is so important that it has to wake me up at 2 in the morning. You look at it and your heart drops as you realize it's an Amber Alert and you immediately feel bad for wondering what was so important. You look through the information, the car type, the license plate, maybe a description of the captor, and of course a description of the child who is in danger. You look through maybe even a couple of pictures before closing your phone and trying to go back to bed, hoping that they find the child safe and sound. I always knew that the Amber Alert system was named after a little girl named Amber who had gone missing at some point, but I had never really thought too far into the actual story or the crime, and when I looked into it and realized it was unsolved, I knew that I had to bring it on my channel and just talk about it and let people know the backstory of the Amber Alert. I know that there are a lot of other videos about Amber Hagerman, but I just felt like I needed to talk about it, so here we are. So I'm Coco, and every Wednesday I sit down and talk about one unsolved true crime, and obviously today we're talking about Amber Hagerman, who was the inspiration behind Amber Alerts. If you don't know what Amber Alerts are, it's widely used in America and also 22 other countries, and it's basically just an alert that comes through your phone, radio, TV, anything, with information of a child who has gone missing. The name Amber Alert is obviously an acronym, and it stands for America's Missing Broadcast Alert Response. And there are certain criteria to determine if it is worthy of an Amber Alert or not. Now, obviously, law enforcement needs to confirm first that this is definitely an abduction case and not just a missing child who wandered off. It does also have to be a child 17 years or younger, and the child has to be confirmed to be in immediate physical danger, at risk of either being hurt or being possibly killed. And the last requirement is there has to be enough information on the captor, the child, or the vehicle that the child was abducted into for the alert to be able to go live straight to our phones and TVs and billboards over the interstate. These alerts are obviously extremely useful in missing child cases, getting everybody involved in the case that's around. Every single person will know what to look out for as long as you pay attention to the alert that's been sent out to your phone. But what happened in the days before the Amber Alert? Well, unfortunately, this story is what happens. January 13th of 1996, young Amber Hagerman, who was only 9 years old at the time, along with her brother Ricky, who was 5, and their mother Donna, had gone to visit Donna's parents, or their grandparents, in Arlington, Texas. Now, of course, when they get there, kids are rambunctious, they want to take advantage of the warm winter day, so they decide they want to go bike riding, and they ask their mother. Of course, the mom says yes, but with the restriction of staying within a 1-block radius of the home, because the mom grew up there and she used to ride her bikes all the time around the home, so she figured it was safe. Now, kids being kids obviously don't want to stay within the strict parameters that their parents have set, so they decide to go a little bit further. There was an abandoned Winn-Dixie grocery store, and the parking lot was just a hub for neighborhood kids. People would come there from the neighborhood and just ride their bikes and have a good time. There was even a makeshift bike ramp that was made and put in the middle of the parking lot. It just seemed like a very, very fun place to be, and Amber and Ricky decided to go there. But after a while, Ricky started getting very nervous, realizing they had broke the rules. They were supposed to stay within just a 1-block radius, and of course they went just a little bit further. This Winn-Dixie parking lot was only 2 blocks away from the home, but Ricky, being 5, just got too nervous and he decided to leave and go back home. He asked Amber if she would come with him, and she said she wanted to stay a little bit longer and keep playing. I forgot to mention, I don't know if this is important, but The Winn-Dixie parking lot was on East Abrams Street in Arlington, Texas. Now, obviously, when he arrives home without his sister, the mother and grandparents look at him are like, you can't leave her alone, go back and get her and bring her back. So Ricky immediately turns back around and goes back to the parking lot, only this time he can't find Amber. All he sees is her bike laying in the middle of the parking lot, and she's nowhere to be found. Obviously, this scared Ricky, and he turns his bike around and pedals as fast as his little legs will take him back home to tell his family that he can't find her. Of course, when Ricky arrives home yet again without Amber and tells the family that he can't find her anywhere, their grandfather, Jimmy Whitson, ends up jumping in his car and rushing to the parking lot only to find the same scene that Ricky described. No Amber, and only her bike laying sideways in the parking lot. Soon after he arrived, he obviously begins searching the area, and a bunch of police show up to the area, even before the family called the police. This is because there was a witness to the crime. 78-year-old retiree Jim Kevill actually witnessed the entire attack. He said that he saw a either black or dark blue truck pull into the parking lot, grab Amber off of her bike, and shove her into the cab of the truck before driving away. He also mentioned that when the person grabbed Amber, she let out one short scream and began kicking and flailing, trying to fight off her attacker. He described the man that grabbed Amber to be either white or Hispanic. He wasn't exactly sure because he was pretty far away from the attack when it happened. Somewhere between 25 to 40 years old, medium build, and less than 6 feet tall. Very soon, obviously, this case became widely known. Anytime a young girl is stolen or taken, especially by a stranger, which is so much more terrifying, the entire community will rally behind you and begin searching for this little girl. More than 50 police officers and FBI agents came down to work the case and ended up searching tirelessly for Amber. Sorry if the camera angle changed a little bit. Apparently my stand was slowly but surely falling down onto me. I had to fix it really quick, I apologize. So getting back to the case, sorry again. But unfortunately, even with the tons of police and FBI down and just tons and tons of volunteers searching for Amber tirelessly around the clock, it all came to an end just 4 or 5 days later. Conflicting reports on that, I apologize. Another bit of conflicting reports. Either a dog walker or someone walking his own dog was walking behind the Forest Hills apartments, and the dogs alerted to something in the creek. So when the person went to investigate, he saw the remains of a young girl, and unfortunately it was confirmed that this was Amber Hagerman. Another unfortunate thing about this is apparently after the autopsy, they released that Amber had been alive for 2 days after her abduction. So this person was keeping her alive somewhere in the area. And her body was found only 4 miles away from where she had been abducted. So she had been in the area the entire time, and they were not able to find her in time. She had also been severely beaten during that time, and her cause of death was a slit to her throat. I also found another bit of conflicting information. I apologize, I don't know why there's so much conflicting information in this, but most articles state that she had been sexually abused during this time, but a few other articles state that the autopsy results were not able to confirm or deny sexual assault. Most people just assume she was sexually assaulted because she was found completely nude except for one sock on one of her feet. So I am not able to confirm or deny that she was sexually assaulted, but there are a lot of conflicting reports out there. Since her body was in the creek and she wasn't wearing any clothes and a large rainstorm had just swept through the area, little Amber was in the water that was moving past her body constantly and cleaning her body of any trace evidence that the police could have used to identify her attacker. Due to this, people do assume that this person who took her had possibly done this before. He knew exactly how to dispose of the body to remove any evidence. Either that or he got extremely lucky. Immediately after discovering Amber's body, they did form a task force and set up a tip line for people to call in if they had any suspicions or any information on this case. Over 800 tips poured in for this task force to sift through, and unfortunately, none of them led anywhere. Everything was a dead end. And after only 4 years, in 1999, the case was officially declared cold and the task force dissolved. Kidnappings by strangers are insanely difficult to solve. There are no leads to begin from. There's nowhere that you can start. You just have to hope that there's some witness, some piece of DNA evidence, or trace evidence like a carpet fiber or a dog hair or something to lead you somewhere. And unfortunately, in this case, there was never anything for police to go off of. The FBI did form a profile on the possible suspect, stating that he was at least 25 years old, which does line up with the eyewitness account of Jim Kevill, who did see the abduction. They also theorized that this was just an opportunity kidnapping. He did not go out that day planning to take a child. He was driving past, saw an opportunity, and jumped on it, unfortunately. They theorized that there was some kind of trigger that made him act out in this way, and it was either like a breakup or an argument with a significant other. Maybe he'd been laid off or fired from his job, but something tripped a wire in his brain and made him act out. They also theorized that he did live in the area. He was not just visiting, because since she was abducted and found within a 5-mile radius, and she had been kept alive for 2 days, the killer would have needed a place to keep her for those 2 days, and it would have had to have been a place that they could keep her quiet and avoid suspicion. After Amber's body was found, a mother named Diane Simone from Fort Worth, Texas, heard about the case and called into a local radio station wondering why, if they can send out alerts for inclement weather, why can't they send out alerts when a child is in danger? And people really started running with this idea. Local news networks and radios decided to team up with police in the area and get any information on missing children that they could send out to their audience as quickly as they could. And this is the birth of what would become the Amber Alert system. Thank goodness for this young mother for thinking ahead and thinking of this, because it was brilliant. In 1998, the Child Alert Foundation, this dog's barking. Chief, don't you participate. I apologize if you can hear that dog barking. I can't control the neighbor's dog. It barks all the time. In 1998, the Child Alert Foundation created the very first fully automated alert notification system that would immediately send out alerts when a child went missing to a ton of different resources, be it radio, TV stations, law enforcement, newspapers, any way that they could get the word out. They were immediately sending these to those networks. After the alert was sent out, these notifications were sent immediately by fax, pager, cell phone, because those were beginning to grab some traction at this time, trying to get the word out as quickly as possible to anybody in the area. By 2002, the Amber Alert system was adopted into at least 26 states and still gaining popularity. At a conference in October of 2002, then President George W. Bush ended up announcing his changes to the Amber Alert system and a plan to make it work in every single one of our states. And this bill became law in April of 2003. This also is what outlined the requirements for an Amber Alert that I discussed earlier in the video. By 2005, all 50 states had working Amber Alert systems, and by January 1st of 2013, the alerts were sent out immediately and wirelessly through cell phones, with what is known as the Wireless Emergency Alert System. Now, not only is this in all of our 50 states, including District of Columbia, Puerto Rico, and the US Virgin Islands, a form of Amber Alert is also live in 22 other countries, helping bring information on missing children's cases across the world and hopefully saving children. By 2017, I believe it was, I didn't write this down, but I did see by 2017 at least 900 children had been brought home safely who had used the Amber Alert system. There is some controversy around the Amber Alert system, people claiming that it's not the system itself that's bringing these children home, because in the cases of children that are saved, it's usually the easier cases, the ones that usually bring the child home, such as a family member or a parent abducting the child. It has not been effective when a stranger takes a child. There are also other controversies where on your cell phone you can turn off the Amber Alert system if it bothers you, but that makes me very sad that people choose to turn off something that could potentially save a child, and the person who stole the child could be in the car driving next to you and you have no idea because you didn't get that Amber Alert. Also, some states have enacted things that prevent the use of the big billboards on the interstate for Amber Alert system purposes because they argue that it causes more traffic congestion. And this is a law in at least LA, California. They will not broadcast Amber Alerts if they come during the time of rush hour traffic. Now, to me, that is also just kind of horrible. I would rather sit in worse traffic and know that the information on a missing child's case than have the child gone forever. I don't understand why you're putting traffic above a missing child, but that's just me. I mean, I know that other people look at it differently, but to me, I would rather my life be slightly inconvenienced if it means possibly saving the child. Now, Amber Alerts are not the only good thing to come out of this tragic case of Amber Hagerman. Within days of finding out that her daughter had been brutally murdered, Amber's mother, Donna, began campaigning and protesting to have stricter laws on sex offenders, pedophiles, and kidnappers. Her parents even set up the People Against Sex Offenders, or PASO, in an attempt to bring stricter laws to these types of people. They began collecting signatures and bringing it to Congress and everybody that they could, trying to get stricter laws put onto these people. Congressman Martin Frost, along with the help of Mark Class, ended up drafting the Amber Hagerman Child Protection Act. Both of Amber's parents were present when then President Bill Clinton signed this into law. And directly due to this bill, we actually got to set up the National Sex Offenders list. Even though none of this will ever bring Amber back and nothing could dull that pain for anybody who knew her, at least they know that a few good things have come out of it, including the Amber Alert and the National Sex Offender Registry. At least they were able to possibly help some children in the future to avoid the same fate that unfortunately Amber had to live through. Obviously, like I said, there are absolutely zero leads on this case. People are still looking, they are fighting, they are still trying to figure out what happened to Amber, who it was that took her, and they still have a tip line active for people to call in any tips. They're still actively investigating this case, and the people have said that they will never give up looking for who did this. Obviously, this is a very, very tragic case and one that's kind of hard to listen to. Anytime children are involved, it's just a next level of sadness and hopelessness that you feel. But now we know the case that brought about the Amber Alert system and the National Sex Offender Registry. I did not know that that was the same case that inspired this, so that to me is very, very interesting. I hope you enjoyed this True Crime Mystery Wednesday, and I hope to see you back next week for another case. See you then.